I see red paint dripping down. And as we started walking out, I realized this is not paint, this is blood.
The gangs were roaming around the emergency department looking for their enemies, and they were still carrying their parangs and their knives and all that.
Welcome to the Hot Pot, where we hop into different pots or spaces people find themselves in during life's transitions. I'm Joie.
I'm Q.
I'm Nick, and today we have a very interesting episode. We are going to be talking about medical emergencies and how to deal with them, because I think it's something that a lot of us grown adults don't really know how to do. And assisting us with that, we have Ren Jie from the SCDF.
Hello.
As well as Professor Marcus from SGH.
Hello. Hi.
To share more with us today.
Welcome to the Hot Pot.
Welcome.
Thank you for the invite.
So, Ren Jie, Professor Marcus, do you want to give us a quick intro about yourselves before we continue?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Ren Jie. So I'm a fire officer and also a paramedic. So I kind of dual train in SCDF.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I'm in the headquarters doing a lot of innovation projects, really to spearhead all these tech projects to augment our guys on the ground.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Sounds very chim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like he's doing like, wow.
Doing more of the policy mastery level now.
So prior to that, it was more executional.
On the
more
operational
hands-on.
level, yeah.
Okay.
So
I
you
was
see in the ambulance, that kind of...
Yes. So the ambulance, the fire engine,
So you've seen things lah.
definitely.
Oh, we're gonna
Get
hear
in
the
there.
story.
Let's
later.
get into that.
Yeah.
I am Marcus. I'm an emergency physician and also a clinician scientist. So basically, my training is specialized in emergency medicine, and I spent 30 years treating patients at the accident emergency departments.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Can I just say, right, it's non-essential, essential, 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 non-essential.
Yeah.
Because we're in media.
we are the most non-essential one. So you have also seen things lah, Professor Marcus.
So we always say that in emergency medicine, it's a reflection of the underside of society. So I see all the problems, hidden issues that come through the front door of the hospital.
Today's topic is actually really important because as a grown woman at 28, right, I honestly don't know what to do. Like if something happens to my family or friends, right, panic mode straight.
So what are some common misconceptions that people have about like emergency services in Singapore?
Actually, the first one is quite interesting. A lot of people seem to think that the SCDF ambulance comes from the hospitals. But actually, it's not. So our ambulances come from all the fire stations across Singapore. And the idea is to space out all the vehicles so that when there's an emergency happening at one point in time, then we will actually send the nearest ambulance to the location.
Right.
itself.
How many fire stations do we have?
We have about 23 fire stations now in Singapore.
I didn't know that.
Is there a specific distance from one station to another?
There is. So what we do is, of course, we try to map out as much coverage as possible. So what we do is, aside from a fire station, we also forward deploy our ambulances and even our fire engines. We call it the Red Rhino at the HDB. So we have a fire post.
Right. And then they will send you to nearest hospital, right?
Yes, correct. So I think the first myth is number one, yes, we send to the nearest appropriate hospital actually.
Yeah.
So not all cases we send to the nearest hospital. For example, if you are pregnant, you're having a childbirth emergency, then we will actually send you to KK Hospital or NUH. Yeah, because they have the specialists there to handle such emergencies.
Right.
Like for example, if you are a burn patient, then we'll send to Prof. Marcus Hospital, SGH, because that itself is a burn unit on its own.
Wow. Have you guys ever encountered someone demanding
I
for a
must go
different
this
hospital?
hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite common. It's quite common. Yeah, so I think the important thing is to have the trust in the system.
Yeah.
Because really, if it's an emergency, the most important thing is to get yourself stabilized first at the most appropriate hospital. And then after that, if you want to transfer to your own specialist, because some of them, they do see a permanent specialist in another hospital.
Yeah.
And they'd rather go over there. But then again, number one, the time spent for an ambulance to send you to the hospital is even longer. And then you're actually depriving the public from another ambulance.
Oh, I never thought about it that way.
Right.
So the people on the hotline would actually advise whether you should wait for the ambulance or go to a hospital yourself?
Yeah, that's correct. So we would actually advise people, if you call 995, and the dispatcher is actually trained to ask questions to be able to triage and sort out what is a real emergency and what is not.
So actually, right, what is the most non-emergency thing someone has called in for, like for 995?
Wow. Actually, there are a lot. But you ask me now off my head, I had a case. Really, it's like I think there's some argument. So they have been slapped on the face. Really, just one small little abrasion on the face, no injuries, but they insist to go to the hospital.
Right.
I'm not sure why. Maybe the intention is they want to do some follow-up actions.
It's to scare the person,
That could
the
be.
slapper
Yeah,
lah.
that could
Yeah, I go hospital, you know. Like
But really,
then in that case, like okay, for 1777, right? Confession, I did not know about 1777.
I think most Singaporeans don't know, honestly.
So for 1777, what are the sort of non-emergencies that people can call for? Because I'm seeing here, right? People got headache also can call 1777. Really? Yeah.
if you can go to the hospital yourself, then basically it means you can call 1777 also.
Right.
So let's say if you have a minor fever, you are weak, but you are not you're not bed bound, for example.
Right.
Or you have some diarrhea.
Typically, an emergency which would require a 995 ambulance will be something that is life-threatening. For example, a heart attack, a stroke,
Blood
a
loss.
person is unconscious, a car crash where you have an injury to the central part of your body, the head, the neck, the chest.
So actually, what's the difference between taking like a private hire vehicle versus calling 1777? And yeah, what's the sort of difference there?
It's really, if it's an emergency ambulance like SCDF, then we will really attempt to reach you in 11 minutes. So the response time is way faster.
I see.
If your means is just to go to the hospital as a transport, then maybe calling 1777 is a better option than calling
Right.
995.
So talking about being on the road, right? I think one of the misconceptions that people have is that ambulances can run red lights. Is it true?
Actually, it's quite true. So what happens is in an emergency, and let's say the patient is, we call it a priority 1 plus case. Means it can be a cardiac arrest, a stroke, right? So what we do is, if you are stuck in a traffic jam and the situation allows, we can actually beat the traffic light to send you to the hospital as fast as possible.
As a driver, right, whenever I see an ambulance, especially when the lights are on, right, I always siam.
Yeah, I mean
But
that's
then the Singaporean
do.
style is you siam first, right? Then you follow behind the ambulance because you can shortcut through the traffic.
life
after that.
hacks.
I never thought about that.
Oh my goodness.
So I must say that we still have a way to go in terms of educating our local drivers and road users how to give way to emergency vehicles. I lived and worked in the US for 2 years. And once you hear an ambulance or a siren at the back, all the cars will actually clear a path for the ambulance to go through, no matter how bad the traffic jam is. However, in Singapore, usually that is quite rare.
Wow.
But do you actually know that if you don't give way to an ambulance, you can actually
The
charge
offense,
you.
right? Yeah.
So
You
all
better
ambulances with a
move.
camera.
So actually, what's the statistic? In a day, how many ambulances do you dispatch? Or how many calls do you get?
So if I give you an overarching stats about 2021 period, right, we had about 210,000 calls a year.
210,000.
Wow.
So if you divide by 12 months, actually in a month you get about close to, even in a day, you get about 600-ish cases. So
that's
that's quite
crazy.
significant.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
And then during COVID, of course, we had a huge surge,
Yeah.
about 15 to 20% surge in ambulance calls. And then that led up to about 250,000 calls
Wow.
a year.
Wow. I would think
Yeah.
that during COVID, it's exceptionally tiring for them because after
Yes.
each patient, they need to sanitize. I mean,
Yes,
anyway, you need to
correct.
sanitize, but you need to change your
PPE.
PPE.
Yes.
But that's a lot.
Yeah,
of
so it
work.
was very, very tiring, very draining. Imagine the hot, humid weather in Singapore.
Yeah.
Then you have to wear full gown, mask. At the start, you even wore like head aprons and stuff like this.
Wow.
So it's really very hot. But I think the mission is quite clear. We really
Yeah.
want to go and help the members of public.
Going to the US back and forth, people complain about how we have it bad in Singapore, right? Actually, our healthcare system, like every other mall or block I walk, right, is another clinic. Clinics are everywhere, so you never have to worry about a GP.
No, then the AED also. Like recently, I did my CPR
Yes.
AED training. Okay.
You got check or not? You got check or not?
So then,
Marcus,
Okay.
clap for you.
during the course, right, then I found out that like we have AEDs everywhere.
Yeah.
Like all the HDB blocks, the void decks, all they have AEDs, and then there's an app, the My Responder app. I've not saved anyone yet, but apparently like this app will let you see if there's a medical emergency happening.
Nearby.
Then if you are CPR AED certified, right, you can go and respond to like these emergencies. Because sometimes you are nearer to like the emergency than like, you know, waiting for an ambulance and things like that. So you help to stabilize whoever is having an emergency
Yeah.
while like, you know, paramedics and all that on their way lah. So then they'll tell you like, oh, okay, yeah, there's an emergency happening here, and then like your closest AED is like 10 meters away. Wow,
It's so cool,
I was
right?
super amazed. So actually, Prof. Marcus, like for the My Responder app, right, is there what are we currently doing in terms of like educating youths and Singaporeans on like being more involved and educating themselves on like, you know, CPR, AED training?
We are talking about the most severe emergency that occurs, which is cardiac arrest. So in a cardiac arrest, a person's heart suddenly stops beating, and if nothing is done, every minute that there's no blood flowing to the brain, your chance of survival actually decreases by 10%. So basically within 10 minutes, your chance of survival is almost zero. And the fastest ambulance in the world, you know, can only get there maybe 6, 8, 10 minutes, you know, time. And so this is where volunteers like yourself come in. You know, so we have now 150,000 volunteers island-wide on the My Responder app. Basically, if there is a cardiac arrest or suspected cardiac arrest within 400 meters, we will actually activate that volunteer to go grab the nearest AED, help start CPR and give the first shock before the ambulance arrives.
A few years ago, right, I was having breakfast with my aunt at the coffee shop. Then suddenly halfway through the breakfast, she looked at her phone. Then she's like, "I need to go." Then I was like, "We eating the fishball noodle halfway." Then she like, just suddenly like disappeared for like 1 hour. So after she came back, then she said that like, oh, she went to like, she got a notification on the My Responder app. Then she went to go and save the person.
No big
She
deal,
casually saved a life while eating meatball.
Yeah, so she just like went like
Fishball?
2 blocks. She like ran like 2 blocks away, then like saved the person. Then she came back, then she finished her meatball. Then after that, the following week, right, then she come on newspaper Cause like she go to the CC and they give her like a medal.
That could be you. That could be you. That could be you.
Yeah, everything. But also I feel like a bit stressed also. Like, oh, if I really get like,
Yeah.
So multiple people can run towards that area at the same time.
yeah.
I got here first.
No, cause you need,
really
ideally you have
competition.
more than one person. Cause one person will need to start CPR, the other person will need to go and get AED and then call
Yeah,
paramedics.
absolutely. It is a teamwork. And, you know, if there are more people actually to take turns to do CPR, that helps a lot, because if you have ever done a CPR class
Very
before,
tiring.
it is super tiring.
Yeah.
And what is encouraging is when I started doing research on cardiac arrest 20 years ago, our survival was very low, less than 2%. But through efforts like My Responder, you know, training more people in CPR, putting AEDs in public places, we have now a survival rate of more than 25%. And in fact, every year we do a ceremony that we call the Survivor Awards, where we will actually bring the survivors to meet their Good Samaritan, the rescuer, like your aunt.
So wholesome.
It's very heartwarming actually.
Then she cried.
Who cried? Your
My
aunt.
aunt, she cried.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. That's amazing.
It's the best feeling to save a life, in all honesty.
So I think knowing what to do in emergency and getting some training and being willing to help makes a lot of difference.
I have a story to share. So 2018, I was on a hike with my husband, walking, a lot of people, and I see red paint dripping down, but it was a lot, dripping a lot. And as we started walking out, I realized this is not paint, this is blood. Question pod! Okay guys, today's question pod is going to be a bit different. Our experts here are going to quiz us based on what we've learned today to see if Nick was listening.
I'm gonna crush it, obviously.
Crush in like spoil or good crush.
Okay, winner get what?
Winner get your next hospital stay upgrade, free upgrade to class A
You
ward.
can have it, you can have it.
Fourth mark.
Kidding.
That's a joke.
Don't want too many
I also
fans,
don't want to
please.
stay
不要
Okay, I'm going to ask it now. What's the difference between emergency and non-emergency
Like,
cases?
Hey, the question haven't finished.
You know already, right?
Nick, right? Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, emergency is life-threatening, and then some examples would be things like
see, never listen
cardiac
hard.
arrest,
Heart arrest.
major trauma, if you slice off your finger, limb trauma, and then non-emergency will be your life is not immediately threatened. So toothache, diarrhea.
The question very short only. You win
headache,
already. You win
fever.
already.
Yeah. No.
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
No bonus
More
points,
the
yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Crushing it.
Okay, the questions are getting more challenging.
Oh, okay.
So what are the alternatives besides calling SCDF emergency ambulance if you have non-emergency medical conditions?
Next.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
Nick.
forgot my name.
Call police.
Kill.
Okay.
Then
Yeah.
police
Kill.
will SCDF will
They-
total defense for you.
Wrong, right? Kill.
Wrong.
GP. Go to GP.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, don't call police. Yeah.
Please don't.
Don't call police.
And don't forget, nowadays we have telehealth options as well, where you can actually get a doctor online or even get some
Oh,
medical
right.
teleconsultation.
I
That's
use
the
that.
favorite thing for millennials these days.
Yeah.
I use that also.
We don't want to go downstairs. We
Yeah.
tired.
What does operational medical networks informatics integrator also known as OmniDo.
Q.
What does it do?
Data and analytics storage.
It stores all our information inside.
So actually, Omni is the electronic medical informatics system that we have on our ambulances. And even before the ambulance arrives at the scene, we can tell if the patient is having some underlying medical problem. And also that information is shared with the hospital so that the emergency department can be alerted before arrival. We can pull in the vital signs from the monitors on the ambulance, or take pictures or even stream videos and alert the hospital that, for example, a major trauma case is coming or a heart attack is coming.
Wow.
So important is
totally
when
off.
you call 995, our operators, after dispatching the ambulance, they will actually ask for your NIC. So don't be too surprised, because the purpose of them asking the NIC is to allow our paramedics to access the ambulance records.
So who won?
All fail.
I said data,
I
analytics,
say
storage.
store our information.
All fail, I will accept all fail.
Okay, true or false? SCDF paramedics can assess and decide not to convey you to a hospital if it's a non-emergency.
True.
Absolutely true. So there may be situations where we would advise you that it's more suitable for you to actually consult a GP, or you can actually self-medicate, and we'll give you some other options rather than going to the hospital.
So take the advice from our call centers. Don't argue with them, because we kind of know what's the best for you actually.
Yeah.
All right, true or false? You will receive immediate treatment if you get conveyed by ambulance to the emergency department.
Joey. Yes.
Yes,
False,
in the
false,
hospital.
false, false. You still must wait. False. Still must wait.
Yes, Joie is right. So we actually have a triage system, both at 995 in the ambulance by the paramedics and on arrival at the emergency department. And in Singapore, we use a 4-level triage, priority 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on how life-threatening your situation is.
Right.
So of course, priority 1, the most life-threatening, the most urgent, will be seen immediately. But if you actually are stable and you have a non-life-threatening condition like a P2, P3, or even P4, you have to be prepared to wait at the emergency department, as there may be other more serious patients that are in front of you. And that's the last question.
Okay.
What's the score?
Irina,
Aya, Q win lah.
Yeah.
And as we started walking out, I realized this is not paint, this is blood. There was a man sitting on the side of like a walkway. This man was bleeding so much, right, that his white t-shirt is red. Everyone was just walking past him. They were looking at him going like this, and they walked away. So I asked him like, sir, do you have any family members with you? And he said, yes, my wife and my kids are there. So I said, pass me your phone. And I called his wife, and then we called ambulance. I'm telling you, right, when the kids came, they went into panic mode. Like really panicking. The helpers also started panicking. All of them were crying. And even though I'm panicking, I know that we cannot panic, right? You cannot show panic. So we just stayed with them. But when the ambulance came, finally, right, the wife just started like urinating herself and she passed out.
Wow.
Yeah, so she just started.
Wow,
and
it's truly high stress.
it's really the most high stress moment in my life. Long story short, when the paramedics came, then the wife went with the ambulance. I told her like, this is my number, I have your children. Later, when you're done at the hospital, you just call me.
So the children with you the whole way?
Yeah.
Then
We
what
try
you
and
do?
calm them down lah, talk to them.
I
The
mean,
main takeaway is you stay calm lah. You stay
Yeah,
calm
yeah,
and
yeah.
then like just do what you can to help and try to be a good Samaritan rather than just like, it's too, blood, I scared, that kind of thing. My cousin, right, there was once where she was cooking lah, then she sliced off the tip of her finger. It was quite a big chunk. Then like she kept bleeding. And then my uncle, he's the type that like no need to go hospital lah, kind of thing. But she was just like bleeding non-stop. So after that, then they decided, okay lah, go see doctor. Like go to the GP. GP first so even though like already like gonna pass out already. My cousin was already waiting at the door, like holding her finger with like a whole towel and all that, right? My uncle still go and take a phone call. Then my cousin was there like already gonna pass out. So after that, eventually got to the GP. GP said like, hey, cannot too serious. You need to go to a hospital. So then she went to the hospital, right? The doctor asked like, where's the tip? Then
she lost it.
so my uncle was like, oh, why you need the tip? He said, oh, we can pull back. Because it was really like, I think nearly 2 cm long.
Hey, 2 cm is a lot.
It's quite a
2 cm is a lot.
So in the end, he went back home and then he had to go and find the tip. And the tip was still, because she was chopping corn. Like she was trying to chop
Oh my god, it's part of the con.
Yeah, so he had to go and find the
Oh
tip.
my God.
But thankfully they still could reattach the tip. But I think because it wasn't on ice, then there's like nerve damage and things like that. The tip is there aesthetically, is fine,
But
but
she
like
cannot
cannot
feel
feel
it, right?
cannot feel anything at the tip of a finger.
I think your uncle need to learn to panic a bit.
Actually, it's quite interesting. Like I find that Singaporeans are divided into two camps. You have the every small thing also will kiasu and see doctor or go to hospital, and then the other camp, like my uncle, that is like emergency already, still like never mind lah, it's okay, put plaster, take Panadol. But I think the interesting bit also is that aside from CPR and AED, there's also now basic first aid course, which we are encouraging a lot of Singaporeans to go for also lah. So I think that's a good life skill to have.
Okay, asking for a friend.
Who's the friend? You ah?
How often do you all get prank calls?
So not calls that like not emergency, but people call
Yeah,
you.
like
It's
prank
really
call, like maybe
prank
like,
call.
hello, police then hang up.
Once in a while, they have two spectrum. One would be really, we call it the innocent ones where young kids, they just call 995. Yeah, and then they put down. But there are those that are really, prank in a way, they use a public phone number to call, right? They will tell you the address, they tell you it's a very bad accident happening there.
Oh.
And then you arrive, actually nothing happened. Right? Then you
Right.
call back, either they don't pick up or they pick up and they put it down.
Right.
So we call them ghost callers.
Is this a crime? Like,
Yeah, can they get charged?
fined?
Yes, we do. So what happens is we have a black box in our 995 operation center.
Can
So
trace
all
back,
calls are recorded and the numbers are taped down also. So if there's a trend, sometimes this guy keeps calling all the time and then it's always returned as a false call, no sign of case. We'll refer this case to the police to investigate. In fact, there are a few cases already which the police actually charge them to court.
Right. So actually, right, for both of your the many years of service, right, what is the worst experience you've had with a patient?
The gory situations are quite common. It's part of the job. But it's more of when you understand the underlying story. Sometimes you get you hear the story of the patient. That's where you get a bit emotionally attached.
As you know, SGH is downtown near Chinatown. And I remember many years ago, we had a case of multiple stab wounds. So two gangs had actually had a confrontation.
Okay.
And there were members of both gangs that were stabbed. And of course, ambulance was dispatched and brought them to the nearest trauma hospital, which is SGH. And so we were dealing with 2 or 3 stab wound victims who were actually in quite a serious condition. However, when the ambulance brings the victim to the hospital, their friends will also come along. And so we had Gang A following victim number 1 turn up at the emergency department, but Gang B also following their friend with victim number 2.
Wow.
And then the two gangs met in the lobby of the emergency department. And they were still carrying their parangs and their knives and all that. So we actually had a few frantic minutes where the gangs were roaming around the emergency department looking for their enemies and wanting to settle scores with them. And we had to call the police to come and assist. And it took a while before they actually cleared off. And meanwhile, we're still trying to save their friends who are, bleeding and having severe stab wound injuries.
Did they come in the same ambulance? Or
No, they
different?
came in their own car
Cannot
following the
lah.
I
ambulance.
don't think they want to
they
be in the
take-
same
They still
vehicle
take car
lah.
to come.
Yes.
So actually being in this line of work isn't easy. You work long hours, you deal with life and death situations every day, and then sometimes difficult members of the public also. So in your own words, right, for both of you, what do you think makes the job worth it?
My patients that motivated me to do research into cardiac arrest was only 20 years old when she actually collapsed. Good thing was that at that time we had just started our telephone CPR protocol, which means that when the husband called 995, we were able to give instructions over the phone for the husband to start chest compressions. We discovered actually there's a very strong family history of sudden cardiac death in her family, but we were able to save her. And the reason we were able to save her was improvements that we had made in the system over time. Telephone CPR, having public AEDs, and she walked out of the hospital, went back to her job, got married, and has a family now. And this patient probably would have died 20 years ago if our system had not improved.
So to wrap it up, what would you like the public to know about your job?
Well, our job is not easy, but really we come in with a huge sense of purpose. It's really to be there for you when you need us, your times of need. So always trust us, trust the system, and then of course help us cooperate with us. And at the same time also, important thing is to call 995 if it's an emergency.
I would add on that it is a partnership. Every life is precious. We can't do it alone. We need help from each one of you, right? So I mean, it is about educating yourself. It takes basically the whole community to take care of one individual. The healthcare system cannot do it alone. The government cannot do it alone. You can't do it alone, right? We all need to work together.
Thank you for joining us on the Hot Pot. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Me Listen.
And if you haven't already, do subscribe to our channel as well.
And of course, thank you to our special guest, Prof. Marcus and Ren Jie for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
And if you want to find out more about what the SCDF does, do keep a lookout for a special feature coming out on CNA Insider in February. I'm a CNA Insider insider.
Wow.
And we will see you on the next episode.
Bye. No context.
Usually they have the. Okay, so now let's hop back to the episode.
Again, in sync.
Okay, so now let's hop back to the episode.